We are at Tembo Plains in Zimbabwe, and you are not just looking at a shady spot on the ground, you're looking at a cat taking advantage of it. There is a lion underneath there, and possibly more lions, because there is a carcass in this area, which is why we've decided to start off here. One, I mean, how often do we get to see cats alive at the waterhole? So that's always a win. But it's an interesting, or we're going to have interesting discussions around drought and not having those big rains come in just yet, and what that means for the animals that depend on water. But anyway, we'll get into all of that in a moment. And it's me, Trishala, everyone. Always a pleasure to be your air hostess here at Live at the Waterhole. Being here for whatever you need in the form of your questions and your comments, because we're live and interactive. Please head over to our website and register to send questions or comments. You can scan that QR code. If you want to keep up with the conversation on Twitter or X, please remember to use that hashtag WildEarth. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember to write in @FC when you want to send in a question or a comment. Now, usually during Live at the Waterhole, I love to just take it easy and adopt the pace of nature, give you lots of moments of quiet and silence, because I think that's really important. It's a different pace to what we're used to during our game drives in the morning and in the afternoons. And it gives us a different type of opportunity to really absorb into wildlife, wild spaces, and to observe in a slightly different way. Now, we can't see too much. These lions are probably going to lie in this shade for a long time until it cools down. It's literally the middle of the day. This time and the next hour or two is going to be the peak of heat. There we go. Thank you, lion. Right on cue, the lion has let us know that I am not lying to you. There is actually a lion there. You can actually see the heat haze, and I think we spoke about this yesterday as well. When hot air rises off the ground, it creates this haze or this warped kind of effect. And that's what you're looking at right now. That's all the heat just rising off the ground and distorting our view. Like I said, these lions are going to lie here for most of the day. There's really no need for them to do much else. For one, it's hot. Understatement. It's hot and dry, and they have been feeding, which means that they're going to need time to digest, and the whole digestive process, particularly when digesting proteins, is quite expensive in terms of energy, and it also gives off additional heat. So trying to remain cool in the heat of the day with a belly full of protein is most important right now. As we pull out, you may see the carcass. So if you prefer not to, turn away. You can still hear me. I don't see it yet. But since we are having a look around this, we definitely are going to come across the carcass. There we go. I will tell you, it doesn't look too gruesome, which is great if you're not too sensitive and not feeling too bad about it. You can have a look. It's not very gruesome, but it is a dead hippo. Now, the lions have been feeding on it this morning and probably last night as well. You can see that the hippo is not in water where we normally see them, and you can see some water at the back there. Now, most attacks on hippos happen when they're outside of the water, which means they happen at night when hippos go out and forage. But a hippo is no easy feat to take down. But if it's sick, injured, old, it's going to be a target for lions. Now, we don't know if the lions took this hippo down and specifically hunted it, or whether something else killed the hippo, or if the hippo perished for some other reason. Now, my first thought when I heard about this, because I hadn't seen it until right now, talking to all of you and looking at it, I hadn't seen it previously. And my first thought after hearing about it was that maybe this hippo died from there not being enough water. We know that hippos are water dependent, but I tried to figure out, well, just not being in water is not sufficient to kill something. So what else has been going on? Now we know that hippos spend a lot of time in water because of their skin. Their skin is really sensitive, but your skin getting dry and cracked is not going to kill anybody. So what else was going on? The other thing could be dehydration. Recently in Namibia, about September, October, there were quite a few hippos that died because of waterholes having dried up. And these hippos actually died because they ended up getting stuck in the mud and didn't move, or didn't want to move from those waterholes, ended up getting stuck in the mud, and they had died. So my brain kind of went there initially when I heard about this. But as you can see, there is some water in the back there. So I don't think water was the issue. I think either this hippo was sick, injured, or old, and was not able to defend itself from what I think was probably lions. I can't imagine any other predator being able to take down a hippo. There is another option, and that is hippo on hippo fights, I suppose, for lack of a better term, territorial disputes. Now that could also be really brutal. You've seen the tusks on hippos and those modified elongated canines. So it can be brutal. But at this point, it's all speculation how this hippo died. But if anyone has any more information, maybe you've watched this camera on the Africam website or something like that, please let me know, and we can piece together the story. Oh, Mr. HUAE87, fancy seeing you here. You are giving us a little bit of information. You said that you have been watching this camera. Actually, I should just open it up and see if I can find any information as well, which I will do. But you were telling us that this hippo was dead by yesterday's sunset because there were jackals already feeding on it, but no lions or hyenas at that point. Interesting. I wonder what could have happened. I really do. Maybe exhaustion, heat, being pushed out of the waterhole it usually spends time in. I have no idea about the age of this hippo. But if I had to just think about a scenario that could fit what we're looking at here, I would say we know that hippos will go out to forage around sunset. They can go out a little bit earlier if it's cooler and overcast, which it was unlikely to be, but maybe it decided to go out a little bit earlier. Or perhaps it was pushed out by a more dominant individual. In which case, maybe it had to get out the water at a point where it was too hot still, and it got dehydrated very easily. And that we spoke about dehydration yesterday, and how when you're too hot, blood gets redirected and you to cool yourself down more. You're losing moisture through sweat. You may not get the right amount of blood going to your head. So all those things in combination perhaps got really hot, pushed out of the waterhole earlier than it needed to be out, became exhausted, maybe just heat exhaustion and then body exhaustion, and that was what made it vulnerable. But my thing is, how does it actually cause death? All of these theories about what could have happened to this hippo. As you can see, look at that. There's water right there, and you can see the direction that the hippo is facing. Could it have been moving or trying to move back to the waterhole when it met its demise? While this heat haze is making it very difficult to see clearly, especially at that distance. But really interesting indeed. I think, oh, we've got a whole lot of hellos coming through and information. The Zoomy said that it just died there, no lion attack prior. Zoomy, do you know, if you're not sure what a Zoomy is, Zoomies are the wonderful people that operate the cameras and zoom them in and out for us. So the Zoomy said just, oh, hello Vervet. Was it a Vervet monkey? Looked like it. And looked mighty curious. So Zoomies, if you have any information, please let me know. Maybe there was something you noticed before it died. Was our camera on the hippo at the time that it laid down there? Did it seem to collapse? All those types of things would be really helpful, because at the moment my theory would be heat exhaustion equaling vulnerability. But that still doesn't explain by what mechanism the hippo died. Fuzzy Dunlop, you say, happy Feline Friday, and just for that we're going to go and have a look at the lions sleeping in these patches of shade. Isn't that clear? Clear as mud. There are lions there. Animal lover, you were wondering, can lions mud wallow to cool down? They certainly can if they'd like to. I've never seen it, and I doubt that they would do it, but there's nothing stopping them from doing it. But I doubt that they would do it. Mud wallowing is great, particularly for those animals that don't have a ton of fur. If you can think about the animals that we do see mud wallowing often, warthogs, elephants, rhinos, so they're not going to hold on to a ton of extra weight from all those hairs. So I think you could become really, really crusty and heavy if you have fur or a lot of fur and were mud wallowing. So it's not something that we see. Mercedes Beanie, you say greetings, Trishala, Wild Earth crew, and chatters. Happy Friday. Happy Friday indeed. I love a Friday. Zoomies and Mr. H UAE 87, thanks so much for that information. Yeah, let me know what you think, how you think that hippo could have died. It's not from a lack of water. There's water there. So I think it is from being pushed out of the waterhole at a time when it was still too hot. Oh, thank you so much, Zumi. This is very interesting. So the Zumi has sent through that one of the other Zumis had sat with the hippo for a while and that you found it yesterday morning. Interesting. And at that time, it was still alive because it was moving a little, but not walking. Then Tambo Plains rangers came around and informed them that the hippo had actually died, and the back area of the hippo, like its hip area, seemed odd. Could this just be an old hippo? Issues with hips are usually something we see in older animals. If you've got a German Shepherd, for example, or any of the bigger dogs, you'll know that they get hip dysplasia. And it's something that is a result of weight and force on the hips over a prolonged period of time. And now, if you can imagine for a hippo, that could be an issue. But we don't often know about these issues because animals just die and then predators come and eat it up. So it's difficult to know that. And also, wild animals don't often reach the end of their life expectancy. So when we look at captive animals, that's when you can get a good idea of what an animal's life expectancy is like. Because out in the wild, almost no animal is reaching the peak of their longevity. The hips were showing. Nice, thank you. That makes more sense. So it was not that there was an issue with the hips and that it looked odd from a movement perspective, but it was more that it was showing. So if a hippo's hips are showing, we can assume that it is not well. It's either not eating well, which I find a little difficult to believe because I am seeing bits of grasses. I am seeing a ton of greenery over on the other side near the water. But not being able to process and digest that greenery does make a difference. So perhaps old and sick is where we're at, but nothing goes to waste in the bush, as you can see. Lions around, jackals have been around, and I'm sure over the next few days you're going to see more predators and more opportunistic predators come along and take advantage of this hippo carcass. Well, this was an interesting mystery to start off live at the waterhole with. And this heat haze is getting to me. I don't know about you. Of course, we'll stick around or we'll keep an eye on this camera rather, and see if any other predators come along. Although I must say, at this time of the day, everyone's looking for shade. But preferably shade where they can still view their prize, being that carcass. But I think we need to cool down and we need to slip into what Live at the Waterhole is all about. And the best place to go to do that is Stony Point in Betty's Bay. So let's head over there. I'm so glad to come to this camera and see a penguin. Often when we're pointed at the rocks, we're looking at dussies. Go on. Make your way. There we go. We can hear the sounds, sort of can hear the sound of the sea. And you can see these beautiful spots that are on this African penguin's belly. I love it when they do this. When they navigate the rocks, they always have their heads way down, as if they really need glasses. And perhaps that is why they do that, because their eyes compensate for changes in, or the refraction and reflection and all the sorts of changes that happen with light in water. You would know that there is a difference if you try to touch your foot in a pool. Water can distort the light and can make things appear closer than they are, or I think it is closer than they are. So I think that maybe the penguins, because their eyes are really well suited to looking in water, because that's the primary way in which they catch their prey, which tend to be small fish like sardines and anchovies. And they can't just switch off that type of eye and put their land eye on when they get back onto the beach. So maybe they have to look really carefully because their eyes aren't as well suited to looking on land. There we go. Did you see what I mean? Whenever there's a little bit of a problem, they put their heads way down. Yes, give us a little shake of your tail feather. So I pointed out these spots on the chest here. Now those spots can be used to identify individuals. I think the best way to do this, whether it's spots on a leopard or stripes on a zebra or spots on a penguin, sometimes you see something. Like for me, I see a butterfly. Now that might not be, it kind of looks like the Big Dipper as well. So choose something that you can very easily see. And that's the best way to use spot patterns to identify individuals. And that's usually what I do with hyenas I see. Some have very strange things going on in my mind, but as soon as I see them, I know exactly who it is because of this this image my brain has created from the spots. It's kind of like looking at clouds, you know? And you figure it out. It's almost like you will an object, a shape. Hi Lenny. Lenny, you wanted to know if I had any further update on the newborn calf that was unable to get up at Tau. the Rangers put into their vehicle and drove away with. No, that's the last I heard. So, well, actually, I watched it. It was just after Live at the Waterhole. And then we finished our show at 2:30. And I think at 5 to 3, the Rangers came, picked up the baby wildebeest and put it into the vehicle and drove away. I suspect they were just looking for Mum because she did kind of move behind the tree lines at that point. So, other than that, I don't know what happened. But I'm glad that they came and got the baby, and I would assume that if Mum was gone completely, they wouldn't have taken the baby away. Linda, you say this little guy is so cute. It certainly is very cute. The sound of the waves are wonderful. So I think let's do it. Let's do what we all love about Live at the Waterhole. Yes, we got some questions, we got some comments, we learned some cool things, had some interesting discussions, but now let's take a good couple minutes and just enjoy the sights and the sounds, and maybe you notice something. And if you do, let me know. Because once this individual goes into the water, I would like you to pay attention to how quickly it can move compared to how clumsily it moves on land. Anyway, here's 2 ocean sounds. Joanne Mello, welcome. And oh, yes, it is Stony Point, and it is awesome. It's quite overcast today. You can't see the normal blue greeny color that we love to see from the ocean, but it's still wonderful. In fact, I think it's cooling us down a little bit. An animal lover, you say that you didn't know that they were such good climbers. They are really good climbers. Well, I suppose scramblers is a better word. They hop every now and then, which is terribly cute. To get from one spot to the other across all these rocks. Here we've got some cormorants behind us here. Or behind the penguin. It amazes me how, inverted commas, well, the different animals get along here at Stony Point. Whether it's the dussies and the penguins and the cormorants. There was one time that one of the other naturalists found a chameleon here. Everyone seems to be getting along quite fine. Like all good birds should, this penguin is busy tending to its feathers. Rosie Adams, good morning to you too. Thank you for joining us. I love it when I know what time it is in the world for you, wherever you are joining us from. I think it's really cool to be starting your day off with a glimpse into African wildlife, or ending your day with it, or sneaky mid-workday break with it. I definitely do that on days when I'm really busy and I just want a break. Then I might watch some of the cams. Splendid! Well, I'm sure... Oh, look at the sun's coming out. It promises to be a wonderful day at Stony Point. And, dare I say, doesn't look windy either. Anyway, how about we head back over to this side of the world and head over to Baluli, Cat Eye Pan, and see what's happening at that little waterhole. Oh no, the elephants seem to be, they're not at Stony Point, everyone, though it may sound this way. They are in fact in the Lowveld. Oh, I wish the elephants could hear that though, because I feel like they might enjoy it. Oh, we're getting a great splash around now. There we go. Now we can hear the wonderful sounds of this area. Whoa, what a wonderful first half of Live at the Waterhole. We got to see some penguins, lions, a hippo carcass, and now it's time for some Ellie fun. Looks like they've already been splashing about because they're pretty nice and wet, and we've got a tiny baby. My goodness, I love it when they're so tiny and their tail is still kinked up. It's almost as if they haven't properly unfolded from their mother's womb yet. But this one's doing pretty well. It's definitely not the youngest elephant I've seen. I've seen them a lot more kinked. But you can see that it quite easily could fit under its mum's belly. So it's definitely under a year old. In fact, I'd put it significantly younger than that. I'd say about 6 to 8 months. So, Mum there, she's walking away with her calf, looks a little bit nervous. She's not relaxed. She's been looking around. She wants to get to the water, and the water's right there, nothing stopping her, except whatever is going through her mind. There we go, finally getting a good splash. Wow, she looks quite a large female. I wonder if she could be the matriarch. Now, the matriarch in an elephant herd doesn't necessarily have to be the largest female. It also doesn't necessarily have to be the oldest female. As a rule of thumb, the matriarch is the most experienced female in the herd, but sometimes that female, the one with the most experience, can be quite old and maybe not in the best shape to be leading the herd. And then she might give that title over to the next most experienced female. And what I often see in herds is that there tend to be two older, large females that kind of bookend the herd, have one in the front and one in the back. And I think that makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't want part of your herd members to be left behind because you're busy leading them somewhere else. It's always a good idea to have two people in charge, two elephants in charge when you are dealing with a group. See, even they're definitely not very relaxed. These two as well on our right. Not quite relaxed. I wonder if Mum is just nervous because of her little calf. But also it's not a very obvious nervousness. Just little things that are giving it away. She seems to be more focused on something else and not the water that's in front of her, which is unusual for elephants. There's water in front of them. That's all that matters. Oh, look at that little noodle moving around under Mum's belly. I saw that little one try its luck with one of the other adults. Try to get some milk from somebody who clearly did not have any to offer. There we go. You're getting it. It's between Mum's front legs. Yeah, this way. You can do it. Now look at the stance that Mum is taking. Can you see that her left foot is forward? Now that's almost an like opening the gate, almost like an invitation. Yes, come suckle, and come suckle on this side because I'm exposing my breast to you here. And you'll find it every time you see calves suckling. Mum will put that foot or that leg forward to allow space for the calf. Now, when the calves are a little older, around 3 years old, and even before that, and she wants to begin weaning them, she might not move her legs at all. And that's when you see the tantrums. You hear them more than you see them. Come on, little one, you can do it. Elephant calves, much like human children, get very easily distracted. Look at these two. These two are fighting, I think. I wonder if they are from two different herds and just happen to came together here. I have been to waterholes where two different herds have come together, and there's nothing wrong. Usually they're not upset with each other or anything like that, just for showing up at the same place. But what can happen sometimes is that the little ones kind of get mixed up and not sure where to go, and occasionally will get lost. And that's when things get pretty intense, to say the least. I was caught in the middle of that, completely unexpectedly. I didn't know a little calf had been mistakenly following the wrong herd. Oh, there we go. Now we can see clearly. So this is an elephant bull on the right, and it's likely that the other ones with him are also bulls. But it's interesting that... So this explains why the female on the left and her calf were nervous. But it's interesting that she was the one that put her trunk over on the other side where the bulls are drinking. And they got irritated with her. Usually she'd just avoid them and be the one getting irritated. This is very, very interesting to watch. Now the calf really doesn't know any better. It's taking its cues from mum. And now the bulls on the right, our right, are not even drinking anymore. They're quite irritated with this female and her calf. And they're looking in her direction. When she tried to put her trunk over, they gave her a head shake. What's going on, Mama? No, baby, wrong legs. Front, you gotta go between the front legs. It's always funny seeing young elephant calves try nursing in the back. And generally, when we think about many other herbivores, their teats or udders are usually at the back, between the back legs. But one would imagine that an elephant calf would instinctually know that they're at the front of mum. But, I mean, there's so many things to learn, so many things to get distracted by. And now we are distracted by a bush and this very big elephant bull on the right. Well, he's not that big, actually. He's probably the same size as mum, if not a touch shorter. At Cataipan, you often get photo bombs from impalas. Well done, impala. Thank you. So now all of them are just kind of standing and probably just talking to each other, sorting out their differences. Katie, you'd like to know if animal mammary glands work the same as humans? Yes, they do. They're one of those wonderful things that classify us and put us under this nice big umbrella called mammalians. So our mammary glands are the same as any other mammal's mammary glands in their function. Their form, obviously, can be slightly different. And mammary glands are just modified sweat glands. And yes, yours as well. Just modified sweat glands. And the way in which we produce milk for our offspring across mammalia is the same. We are just filtering out blood, essentially. I know we wish it could be more warm and fuzzy than that, but we are essentially filtering iron out of blood and some other components that are difficult for a baby or an infant to digest. But especially we are removing the iron or the heme, which is what gives red blood our wonderful red color. I wonder if these two groups, the mum and calf and the bulls, actually know each other. Now, it's very unlikely that elephants, with their large home ranges and their ability to transmit vocalizations and receive them over really large distances. So it's really, I don't think there's a way to surprise an elephant with your presence as another elephant. Because whether you want an elephant to hear you or not, you have no choice if you want to communicate over large distances. So generally speaking, elephants in a similar area know each other, even if they are not in the same herd. So maybe they know each other and are having a disagreement. Not that little calf cares. It's just little calf and bush. And that little bubble. Spas, you say, as long as there is water, there's happiness for Ellies. Absolutely. And luckily for them, they know all the tricks how to get water. See, when the bulls on the right pushed forward slightly, she moved backwards, but then she moved forwards again. I don't know if she's trying to make a stand, but I don't think she would if she's got a young calf. Oh, there, he lifted up his head almost to say, come on, move on. You're in the way. This was a very civil disagreement that we've been watching. Little calf, do you want to say hello to that bull? Can't you see your mum's having a disagreement with him? Rosie, you say beautiful little calf, so tiny, and mum's so big. Yeah. I'm actually wondering if this younger elephant that just walked in might also be her offspring. I'm not seeing other herd members around, but I think it could just be because we're zoomed in. Now this other individual here right in front of us, you can see the little tusks coming through. I mean, they're not that little, actually. I think they're pretty, I mean, at least 3 years, maybe even up to 5. So it could be her offspring, but it's quite tight. Because remember, if they're going to, they're pregnant for 22 months, so there's 2 years gone. And then at least 3 years to be fully weaned from mum. So that means a gap of about 5 years at least between siblings. And I mean, looking at this calf now, you can still see light patches, lots of hair. I would say about 6 months. So it could be. Penelope! Hello, Penelope! You are greeting everyone and you're watching from a rainy Salt Rock in KZN in the North Coast. Welcome. I'm sure, even though it's rainy, I'm sure the beach is beautiful. Oh, look at this cuteness! I do think that one of the most wonderful things in life is having a sibling. It's another individual that is existing in a similar world to you. And you're living life together and you understand the relationship to everything else, like your parents and grandparents, and when to step in line and when you're allowed to step out of line. And I think that with elephants, it's a similar thing. And I think elephants learn from their siblings as well, particularly when they're young calves like this. Mr. X, you want to know what the life expectancy of an elephant is? In the wild, for African elephants, it's around, I mean, it's anything pretty much between 60 and, yeah, 70. There are elephants that may live longer than that, but once that last set of teeth come in, that's basically it. And once those teeth are worn down, it's a slow death from simply not being able to feed. Interestingly, African elephants do very, very poorly in captivity, and they almost will always die before 40 years old. Now, 40 years old out in the bush, that's a good elephant. That's about prime. That's for me an elephant that's 40 years old, an elephant cow that's 40 years old. She must have had a good few offspring by then. She's successful. She might be the matriarch by that time. And she's still got so much life ahead of her. But in captivity, they do not do well. For the Asian elephant, it's different. Asian elephants tend to do well in captivity, and though they might have a similar life expectancy of about 60 or 70 years old in the wild, in captivity they can live for really long. I can't remember what the name of the elephant was, but she was 98 when she died, and I think there was one that was even older. And those were elephants in captivity, Asian elephants in captivity. But out here in the bush, with African elephants, if you see an elephant that looks to you like it's over 60, I think that that's a wonderful thing. And older elephants are not just, it's not as if they're not there after they're 60. We might just not be seeing them because they will change. What they eat needs to change. It needs to be softer. Where they hang out needs to change because they don't want to move far distances anymore. So maybe we just don't see them when they're that much older. Bundu, you say the Ellie looks a little thin. Are you talking about this one closest to us? Because I must agree with you that it does look a little bit thin. Definitely seeing ribs and hips sticking out. And if you look at the spine as well, you can see that there's, it's not very plump in the spine area. You can see it sticking out. I find that a little concerning because there's a lot of grass around at the moment. There's a lot of vegetation if the grass is not good enough. But if this is the older offspring of the cow that we're looking at, and she has this new calf as well, then that means that this calf that we're looking at right now, this one that's slightly skinny, would have been weaned by about 3. Ah, do we have some blood there? No. Do we? Kind of feels like there's a reddish tinge. I was thinking that maybe because this calf or this offspring of hers had to be weaned earlier, maybe that meant that just didn't receive sufficient nutrition. Look at her holding this calf back, or this offspring of hers. Don't go near them. But it is unusual at this time of the year to see them so, this particular one, so skinny. Looks like it's a young female, a young cow. And that hanging skin looks a little bit like a prolapsed vagina. But this calf is, or this offspring is still quite young. So I wonder what's going on there. Oh, when it's fully prolapsed, it's very obvious. But this is not fully prolapsed, but it is, and there is a little bit of a bump like that on females, but this is hanging quite low. I'm hoping that what we saw dripping there was not blood, because it is just generally a reddish tinge on this camera that I think is a result of the soil. Look at the hairs on that elephant's tail. Also ready, look at the sand on Mum's back, on the Mum's side there on her skin. Also quite red, iron oxide rich soils. So maybe that's what we were noticing. But given that there is such an abundance of grasses and water, or there will be an abundance of water shortly, we hope. This tells me that even if this calf is suffering from some other ailment, not the tiny one, this 4 or 5-year-old one, even if it is suffering from some other ailment, it's probably got its best chance at recovering quickly in these kinds of in the season where there's plenty to go around. Meanwhile, back on the other side of the pan, we've just been having a grand old pool party. Yes, enjoy it. Nikita, you'd like to know, how does an animal get a prolapsed genitalia? And it happens from pressure. Most of the time it happens after pregnancy, after giving birth. So it's a matter of pressure. in that area. How it would happen on a younger individual, I don't know. And like I said, it looks that way, but it's not fully prolapsed if it is what I'm thinking. If not, it may just be that that pouchy bit that we see on the females in that area is just slightly bigger on this particular individual. But it does look a little unusual, hanging a little low. But yeah, generally prolapsed vaginas happen as a result of childbirth and pressure. This cow and her little family just want to have a drink. And these elephant bulls are bullying her. Um, I would imagine. Can't speak elephant just yet, but maybe we're getting there as a human race. But I think there's lots of conversations that were had between that elephant family on the left and this old boys club on the right. Yeah. Anyway, let's take a moment, enjoy these sights. I hope they'll get right in there and really splash around. Sometimes you really don't need to be saying anything, and that's definitely how I felt watching this little calf play around. Almost slipped and put both its legs out to stop it. I even saw it kick its mum, trying to get mum to push that front leg forward so it can reach her teeth properly. Thankfully now she's doing it. And even still, it's a little tough for that baby to reach all the way up. Now, if you didn't notice, it was a little bull, a little male calf. So no wonder he was super interested in those older bulls. So, you know, young boys always want to hang out with the older ones. So much to learn, so much to discover. Now, male elephant calves are usually quite boisterous from the time they're born till they're pushed out of their herd, and they only really settle down once they're older. In their late teens to early 20s, well, not even late teens, early 20s, they start to settle down, and they carry themselves with a different kind of elephant dignity. But when they're young, if you see elephants playing very rough, you can be sure that you are looking at a couple of males. There we go. Can you see that little bottom lip moving as it's drinking? Oh, so sweet. Shall we go back to the water, Mum? Oh, I could watch elephants all day. Oh, that was nice to see that big elephant bull right close to us. I think that was the one that was giving the cow a bit of trouble. Or maybe it was the other way around. Until I learn to speak elephant, I'll never know. But let's head over to Rosie's pan now. We've had such fun with this calf, and I believe there's more elephants at that pan. Oh, yes, and we get to hear splashing. Oh, yes. Let's get stuck right in. I love the splashing. I really do. I get so excited. But I think we arrived a bit too late, but at least we caught some of the splashes. And now you can hear some starlings always near this waterhole. And when we could hear the waterhole really well, and it was a little louder earlier before I was speaking, you might have also heard a fly buzz past and even one of the bird's wings, like the flapping of the wings. I love hearing that. And look how much force this elephant is moving its ears with. Now, if we were there in person, you might even be able to hear those ears hitting its body. And it's sounding a little squishy because it's nice and wet. Oh, we've got the Rosie's hippo. Nice to see you good and alive. Oh, yes, we've got a number of birds here. Did we have, oh, okay, nice, very nice. Looks like we have some, looks like some laughing doves. And we have on the left was a red-billed buffalo weaver further back, and in front of us looks like a Burchell starling. I was hoping. So usually when we see a group of birds here at the water's edge, they're usually a number of very cute small birds, like golden-breasted buntings and blue waxbills, maybe even a green-winged petilia, and some firefinches. They all kind of hang out together. Maybe a canary. They are very sweet. The middle of the day is great for birding because not too much else is happening at this time, especially in summer when it's just way too hot. Ooh, what are we looking at here? Oh, look at that crested barbet. Oh, that's sweet. Absolutely, Janet. At least the hippo isn't being bullied by the elephants today. It so often is. Interesting grouping here. So we've got the crested. Oh, there we go. That makes more sense. Crested barbet over there, and looked like either Cape Glossy starlings. Looked like Cape Glossy starlings to me, but it's really difficult to tell them apart from greater blue-eared glossy starlings, especially in that light. But for me, looked like Cape Glossy starlings with it. There we go. Of the starlings, Burchell starlings are my favorite. They have this really nice long tail, and they almost have a slightly more purple tone to their gloss. Burchell starling also has a dark eye, so easy to tell them apart from the other two glossy starlings we get. Oh, there we go. You look cute. Oh, I think that was a petilia. I love petilias. Where did you go? Oh no. Starlings can sometimes be bullies. It's just something we have to learn to accept. So when I was in university, I did a project. We had to pick one species. I can't remember exactly what the theme was, but mine was mobbing behavior in Indian miners, or common miners as they're now known. And miners are a type of starling, so they're not shy. They've really taken over urban areas. They outperform other species quite often. So anyway, I was obviously inspired, and having a bit of a creative brain, I decided to do a kind of a mockumentary on Indian miners in the style of The Godfather. It worked out very well. But that's what, when I first started learning about mobbing behavior in miners, and then found out that miners were starlings, and learned about starlings and their behavior, and the way that they can often bully other birds, it just all made sense. And here we have a golden breasted bunting. Nice. This is the group that we thought we had earlier. Blue waxbill, golden breasted bunting. Pretty sure we saw green winged petilia earlier as well. Oh, and do we have a firefinch? Looks like we have a firefinch, everyone. Very sweet. Oh, quite a bit of birds. Mercedes, you say the eyes are glowing. On those starlings, absolutely, those eyes are glowing. Oh, here we go, the petilia. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. So this is the male that we're looking at right now. Earlier you saw the female. You could see that she was kind of lacking that bright red on the forehead and on the throat. Penelope, you say we have plenty of miners in Durban. Absolutely. Tons of them in Durban. Here's our crested barbet. I was a little worried at first when we saw this crested barbet because I couldn't figure out if it was just tilting its head or if it had a broken neck. As you can see, it's just being super curious, cute, and weird. Kind of my favorite things to have in an animal. What are you looking at? These birds just look so crazy. They look unpredictable. What is it doing? Stretching itself? Sometimes when they're anting, they stretch out their wings in this way. Could it have been anting itself? I'm not seeing a whole lot of ants there. That was odd. Anyone have any idea what that was? Mercedes, you say that when you were about 10 years old, your mum's chiropractor had a minor bird in his office, and his name was Bandit. Hi, Bandit. Shout out to you. Here we go again. Golden breasted bunting. Mercedes, that sounds great. Um, there were lots and lots. I mean, like Penelope was saying, there's lots and lots of common miners in Durban. Oh, do we have a Brinia? That's sweet. All the birds we're seeing just look shocked at us. Shame. So hot. Oh, there's some babblers around. You can hear them. Look at that. That 20 flank Pyreneer looked so small compared to the starling once we actually got some perspective. Oh, there the babblers are. Some of them just flew down to have a drink. A nice spot of birding, everyone. Two types of starlings, crested barbet, 20 flank Pyreneer. Uh, pretty sure I saw a firefinch. It's like a Red Bull firefinch, but we didn't get it on screen for long. There were blue wax balls, green winged petilia, laughing dove. There's the babbler. Babblers also look a little crazy. Penelope also saying that your brother brought a pet miner back from boarding school and it only liked you. Oh, sweet. Um, Now, I know, so in the bush, my favorite starling is a Birchall starling, but my favorite starling in the world is a common starling. And you do get common starlings here as well, but I've only seen them, I've seen them like in the cities in Cape Town, but in the Northern Hemisphere, well, in Europe, you probably see a ton more, and I think they're absolutely beautiful. I think they are stunning, stunning birds. And I know that starlings can make a wide variety of beautiful calls. So I wonder, Penelope, if your brother's miner, who liked you so much, if they were able to make any calls. Oh, here's another one. Got a white crown shrike, everyone. What a beautiful selection. Is it white crown shrike? Am I second guessing myself? What was I going to say? For a moment there, I was thinking I had my brain felt it was less a grey shrike, but it was definitely a white crown shrike. Lesser grey shrikes are much lighter and have a much thicker black band around their eye. Ooh, a sunbird! Yeah, I'm gonna need time with this one because when it comes to female sunbirds, doesn't happen instantaneously. With the males, it's so easy to identify them, but with the females, they pretty much all look the same. Different variations of dull brown gray. But what is helpful is looking at size. Unfortunately, we don't get a good idea of size when looking through the camera. Tina, you wanted to know which of these birds are migratory. None of them. All the birds that we saw are birds that we see year round, very common, particularly at this time of the day at a waterhole. Some are just harder to spot than others because they're small and shy, like the green-winged petilia and the red-billed firefinch, or even the bunting. I haven't been seeing a whole lot of them, but those are birds you can expect to see year-round if you're in the right place at the right time. Rosie, you say, "Oh, wonderful to see the little birds in the shelter shadows of the rock." I know, and they're all just, piling in there. It's a bit of a bird party, but not in the usual sense. Oh, it must be so hot. I mean, none of the birds we've seen actually had their mouths closed. Everyone's got their beaks wide open, and that shelter is just perfect for them. Oh, 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 oh. I like how they jump in here and open up their head. Oh, here we have a magpie shrike. You can see its long tail. Wow, the bird list is really just picking up. I wonder what it was with that bright red breast that we saw earlier. I think just on the other side, we just saw the bright red. I wondered if it could be a black collared barbet because it looked a bit big for the petilia. Blue waxball just flew past, followed by arrow marked babbler. And again, so much going on bird-wise. I hope that some of them will step into the water and take a bath soon. Bunting's back. Aren't you sweet? Well, this was a really nice bedding break from all the elephant action that we had. In fact, let's go and get some more elephant action, but this time at Tembe Elephant Park. Whoa, whoa, I had no idea it was such great elephant action. 2, 4, 6, 7 Ellies just enjoying themselves. Oh, and there's splashes. Yes. All right, let's take a break from listening to Trishala and let's listen to the Ellies. Rosie, indeed, well washed eddies. Very well washed. Um, and soon I hope they're going to be well encrusted eddies and then well scratched eddies. A wonderful process. Oh, and they're going to go splashing again. Larato, you wanted to know which ones or which of the Africams are really good for birding, which of the other locations we were at Rosie's when we were doing that spot of birding. Um, I would say that Safari Hook is really nice. There's a good variety of birds. Victoria Falls, we get really nice birds, and they also have lots of vultures there and lots of marabou storks. Camphor's Dam, you're going to see lots of flamingos and other water birds. So those are good options for birding. Oh, Tau as well. Tau, you'll see a lot of water birds. Here we often see Nyala, like we're looking at right now. Looks like mostly females and just one male is transitioning from that female look that he has as a calf and starting to get his adult male coloration. Oh, white-faced whistling duck, which is adding to our list, everyone. But I can't ignore the sound of those elephants going crazy in the water, making me a little bit jealous. It's quite warm where I'm sitting at the moment. Naomi, that is a really excellent question. You would like to know what skin conditions can elephants get. Now, elephant skin is much different to our own skin, but essentially, skin as an organ is the same across mammals. So that means that elephants can be prone to calluses, just like we can. Um, Hyperkeratosis, so that's when the outer layer of skin can become a little thickened. Now, none of these are life threatening, but it does mean that skin can be in poorer condition. Inflammation of the skin or dermatitis, which is basically just a rash or inflammation on the skin as a result of maybe it's desiccation, so being dehydrated, and then maybe infection. So, pretty much similar things that we can get if we don't take care of our skin. And similarly, what we're watching right now, elephants that are washing themselves. Well, they're not washing themselves, but they're throwing water onto themselves to cool themselves, getting mud on there. They're moisturizing their skin. They're making sure that there aren't parasites on it, or they're killing the parasites that are on it already, which in the parasites can cause infection and cause dermatitis and inflammation. So elephants need access to water, to mud, to sand to throw on themselves so that they can take care of their skin. Now, elephants can also get a type of herpes virus, endotheliotropic herpes virus, um, which can be deadly in Asian elephants. Luckily, in African elephants who don't specifically have that particular herpes virus, but a similar one, but in African elephants, it's benign. And sometimes you can see it in these kinds of, um, like, kind of little bumps on their trunk. But other than that, it doesn't affect them at all. But in Asian elephants, that endotheliotropic herpes virus can actually cause hemorrhaging, so bleeding, and can be deadly. Now we've only got about 10 minutes left together, and I would like to end here at Tembe Elephant Park because there's so much going on. The sounds are wonderful, and we do love elephants. But before we come back here, I'd like to head back over to Tembo Plains in Zimbabwe and just have a look if there's any change to the scene that we started off the show with. No change whatsoever. Looks like the lion is still under this patch of shade. I think so. I can't see her. Don't see any other scavengers or predators. Thanks. I've just been told that the lion moved further back into the shade. So we're definitely not going to see it, especially in this weather. But if I were a lion, I'd be doing the same thing. Keeping a close eye. Oh, hello! Zumi, that was perfect timing. Well done. It's nice to see a catty face, even if it is just a silhouette. Like I was saying, if I was a lion, I'd be doing the very same thing. In some shade, making sure I can still see my meal. Luckily, there aren't going to be too many others around. Well, probably there are hyenas in the shade close by too, maybe jackals as well. And I'm sure a leopard would have sniffed this out also, maybe other lions too. But the hippo's carcass, which we will see in a moment, and you're welcome to turn away if you'd like. The hippo's carcass, there we go, is right in the middle. And to drag that carcass anywhere else where a predator might be more comfortable is going to be oof, very, very difficult. And it's very difficult to sex hippos, and looking through the camera, it's difficult to say how big this hippo is, but my gut instinct is that it's an older bull. Oh, elephants in the background. Nice. And if that's true, I mean, you're looking at, yeah, 2.5, 3 tons of weight to drag. Maybe a little less, actually, considering that the guide said that, or the rangers said that the back hips were showing. Maybe a little undernourished. You know, might take a couple kgs off, but nothing drastic. So no one's going to be able to move that carcass. Actually, what everyone needs is for vultures to come and open it up properly. Because once that happens, everyone can sink their teeth in at the appropriate section. And I say that because jackals can't go and break into the top of a hippo. They're going to go for specifically smaller parts. Hyenas, they're going to come in and they might, break off limbs and move away with it. That's not uncommon. I once arrived at a hyena den and then promptly found a hyena walking towards it with an elephant's foot in its mouth. And I don't mean a piece of it. I mean the entire foot, just dragging it. And it's something I see often. They'll drag it away to a spot where they can eat. Dragging it to the den, though, is not very common because if they drag it to the den, they're kind of forced to share with other individuals. If you're high ranking, good for you. Nice. You can bring whatever you want to the den. But if you're low ranking, you want to take a piece, draw very little attention to yourself, and feast happily. So I think if you are going to keep an eye on any of the cameras over the next few days, this is definitely going to be one on the list. Because I can't see the other side of the carcass. I can see the top of the head's kind of been eaten, but there are going to be lots and lots of scavengers come through. I mean, a crocodile might even come out of those waters and to the spot. I remember, I think it was at Oliphant's River. What carcass was it? Can't remember what it was, but the lions had it, and then a hippo came past and gave a small nibble, but that was it, continued walking, and then a crocodile came through, and the crocodile was feeding at the same time as the lions were feeding. So a dead animal that is the result of no predator's efforts is pretty much fair game. And anything and everything comes through. And when it comes to a hippo, and you can't drag it elsewhere, or even a rhino or an elephant, those are just too massive creatures to drag anywhere. So that means everything comes to it. And in the bush, really nothing goes to waste. Once the scavengers are done, the big scavengers are done, and the bird scavengers are done, then all the insects come through. Then you're going to get flies feasting on it. You might even get centipedes coming through. Who knows? But nothing goes to waste, and whatever's left over will decay and disintegrate back into the soil and will provide nutrients into that soil. So if we see a really nice patch of grass growing here in a couple months, we can say thanks to this hippo's carcass. Anyway, I said I would like to come check here, keep an eye on this cam, but I would love to end with something a little bit more uplifting. Even though this is a natural part of life in the bush, I think it would be nice if we could end with some more joyful Ellies. So, how about we head over to Cat Eye Pan? Oh my goodness. This exactly what I wanted to end on. My goodness, it's a full blown Ellie party. Oh, look at that little baby. Little baby on the left. Baby alert. Wow, we. Okay. Fantastic. I'm going to be quiet. I'll say goodbye to you in a minute and a half or so. But for now, just enjoy these sounds because this is sweet, sweet bliss right here. Penelope, you say thanks so much to me and to Richard the Zoomy. You loved the birding today and the Ellies too. It was a really fantastic day across the cams during Live at the Waterhole. And we are ending with a sweet little Ellie bang. So take the next few moments and then I'll say goodbye to you in about a minute. Well, the goodbye crept up on me quicker than I anticipated. But Fuzzy Dunlop, Friday pool party indeed. And I hope that's what you're planning to do too. And Rosie Adams, it was welcome. And we're happy to have you on board. See you next time, everyone. Bye for now.